Okay, welcome to a series of interviews to celebrate South Asian Heritage Month, featuring coaches listed in the Diverse Executive Coach Directory. I'm here today with Hira. Hello, Hira. How are you doing?
Hi, Janie. I'm very well, thank you.
It's good. It's lovely to see you, and I'm really looking forward to our conversation. The first question is, can you tell me a little bit about you, but also about your South Asian heritage? I'm really curious to learn more.
Right. So I am an executive leadership development coach, as you know, and an author, writer. But more specifically, in terms of my South Asian heritage, I am from Pakistan, and within Pakistan, I was born in a province called Sindh, and within Sindh, a city called Karachi.
Ah, lovely, lovely. And tell me, so you're very much, how long did you live there? How long were you there for?
Um, Pretty much most of my life so far. So I was raised there, educated there, and then was married there. And then I moved in at, I think about when I was 25 or 26.
Ah, okay, okay. So most of your life, you're very embedded in your South Asian heritage because it was all your formative years were spent there.
Absolutely, yes.
Yes,
Yes.
yeah. And as a result of that, because that can be quite different to some people I speak to who have a South Asian heritage, but perhaps haven't even been to the country of their birth.
Mm.
It might be a difficult question, but how do you believe that your heritage growing up where you were in the majority group might have impacted you when you were growing up?
So growing up, I think I come from a collectivist culture. So in Pakistan, everybody is very um, particular about family values, building
Mhm.
relationships, hospitality. We're all about food, celebrations, all of that. So I think that is very much part of my culture and how I was raised. I remember my parents were always hosting family members and relatives. It also meant that we were always looking out for each other. You were always very concerned about other people's welfare. And
Mm.
sometimes so much so that even at the expense of your own welfare, even if there was a conflict of interest, it would still be, you would always be there for people, there to support them, help them. So I think, yes, I think those were some of my values and very expressive, very warm.
Mm.
When I moved to UK, there was definitely a bit of a cultural shock in the sense that, of course, people in UK are wonderful, but I felt that everybody was slightly more reserved.
Mm.
So I found that a bit hard at the beginning, but then I realized it's just a difference in cultural values.
Yes, yeah, really interesting that how do you think that you've been able to bring your cultural values to the UK then? Because absolutely there's something about adapting because then you meet lots of people who are not so open and expressive and collectivist. But what about the other way around, do you think? Do you think you've been able to bring some of yourself to impact us?
I think I have. So I'll be honest, the beginning I found very challenging because I thought maybe I was oversharing, maybe I was a bit too expressive. So I did moderate my style a bit. But then I realized I am who I am, and it's fine to give space to people if people are not as I wouldn't use the word reciprocal. I think they're all different in a way that they wouldn't really open up as much in the beginning.
Mm.
And that's fine. So I continue to be who I am. I'm still quite very warm, very expressive, very emotional. But at the same time, I understand that not everybody is going to be like me.
Mm.
That's what cultural intelligence is, right? Respecting
Yeah.
people for the way they are and acknowledging that they are not going to show up in the same way as I show up.
Mm.
And that's absolutely fine.
Okay, okay, thank you. So tell me, you talked about where you're from Karachi. Is there a common misconception, assumption, or questions that you're asked about your heritage,
Yes.
based in the UK? Tell me a bit more about those.
So I think most people usually think I'm Indian, and they mix up the South Asian countries. So if you are brown skinned, they'll assume that you're all Indian,
Right.
even though we are from different countries like Pakistan, India, Bangladesh,
Mm.
Sri Lanka, Maldives.
Mm,
So I think there is this general stereotype there.
mm.
And then people often ask me, oh, is Pakistan safe to go to? Oh, how come your English is so good? And if I tell them that I took my GCSE exams, they will be so surprised. They'll be like, oh, you had O levels and A levels in Pakistan? Of course
Right.
we do.
Yeah.
And I went to a convent school. So I think all of those assumptions are there.
Yes, yeah. So, and I think that's really interesting because when I mentioned South Asian Heritage Month, lots of people said to me South Indian Heritage Month. And I said, no, it's Asian. So this understanding that it's an area that covers many countries. And I think that happens with the continent of Africa as well. People just think Africa is one country. So that same issue, but also this sort of assuming that in the West we've got all the intelligence, I guess, and all the
Mm.
we're the sort of advanced ones, not assuming that actually in Pakistan you could be doing O levels, GCSEs, absolutely highly educated. So that sort of
Sorry, the
undermines.
country, the province that I'm from is Sindh, which dates back 7,000 years, the Indus Valley civilization. Because Pakistan was created, nearly 80 years ago. But that doesn't mean that the provinces that we're from or the places that we live in, they are new. So they have
Right.
very old cultural heritage and folklores and Sufism and all of that has been there for a very long time. So that's not new.
Okay, lovely. And can you tell me a bit more about Pakistan being created later? How did that happen?
Oh, so that's the whole thing about the partition when Pakistan and India, they're all one big country, and then after the British left 1947, that's when the partition happened, and then it was divided into two countries, so Pakistan and India, and hence now so much focus is being a lot of attention is being brought to partition and all the trauma that it caused and how we need to recognize that and the British history associated with that, and how do we tell the story in a way that it is respectful to people from all the countries or people who were affected by that partition.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much. This is really helpful. I think there'll be a lot of people who are unaware of this, and it will help them with a better understanding and not make such sweeping judgments that they might be making about people who they work with or who they come across. So I've known you as a coach the whole time I've known you. It's been amazing to get to know you better over the years. Very experienced, often in the media, often really advocating for women with a similar heritage. And you also bring your faith as well into the work you do. So I'm really curious about whether this heritage, who you are, has that had an impact on you becoming a coach or on your style of coaching, do you think?
So I think as Pakistanis, we love giving advice to people and free. All the time, we have lots of advice, often unsolicited advice. And I think, well, coaching is obviously not advising at all, but it is supporting people and helping people. And that has impacted my coaching, I would say. And sometimes I actually have to stop myself from advising and say, oh, you just have to coach them. Remember, don't give them solutions, just ask them questions. So I think that element is very much there to be able to help people, to be able to support people, to make a difference in their life, to create a positive impact whatsoever.
Absolutely. And what about, do you think, when you're coaching people who might have a different background to you, do you think your heritage impacts that positively in some way?
Definitely does because we are living in increasingly inclusive world, so we need to be able to see things from different perspectives. So if there is a coach who is from a different heritage from you, then they will be perhaps able to focus on certain things which people from the same heritage might not be able to relate to, or they might not be able to point that out. And at the same time, if you have people from the same heritage, that has its own advantages because you could relate to a lot of things. So I think they are both pros in being coached from a person from the same heritage, but also being coached from a person from a different heritage.
Hmm. Yeah, thank you. I think one thing I've observed and noticed about you is a real pride in your heritage, a willingness to observe um, religious days and celebrations, and that you feel are important, but also a willingness to sort of educate others and help them understand why these things are really important to you. So I think it feels like you've got lots of patience to educate others. I'm wondering, have you always had that, or have your views about your heritage changed as you've got older, and how you convey it to other people as well?
So, oh my God, Jenny, I was literally going to write a post on this today about my
Oh,
patience
really?
level because somebody actually I met on an event on the weekend were marveling at how patient and I am and how I don't get angry at people. And then they were saying, oh, this is probably part of your faith as well. And that's true. I mean, I think part of my faith and our cultural value, even as a Pakistani South Asian, is just to be kind to everyone, to be respectful to everyone, just have, that warmth, empathy, hospitality, all of that is very much there in as part of my religion. It's all about being inclusive to everyone.
Mm,
So that definitely comes in, but I have to say this that I haven't really been super patient throughout. I am a stubborn, sometimes a stubborn a Taurian, a typical Taurian who can who has a pretty fiery temperament, and I can lose anger very fast. So it has taken me quite some time because being angry is like a natural tendency for me. That's the first thing I get. I get angry. When I get frustrated, it might not seem like that way, but that's how it is. However, I think over the years I've trained myself to be more patient with people from different perspectives, and even people who even people who are not really coming from a completely different perspective from me, or who are just being jerks, I guess. I'm just trying
yeah,
to be patient with them. Sorry, I don't know if I was allowed to use that
yeah.
word in this
You
particular
word you want.
interview.
Yeah. Yeah. So you've developed patience over the years, but actually naturally you feel that you're perhaps someone who someone who gets. I've noticed that you're passionate. I haven't seen you angry, I don't think, but I've definitely seen you passionate.
Passionate. And I think in terms of how my views regarding my own culture have changed, so I'm definitely very proud of my culture, my heritage, my faith. I think in terms of cultural values, we all need to understand, and Jenny, you would also relate to that because you study cultural intelligence and all of that. So that there's no such thing as a good value or a bad value. They're just different values.
Mm,
And over time, you learn to appreciate that there are some values which I'm very proud of, and I would absolutely love to pass them on to my son Ibrahim. And there's some values you're like, okay, maybe not this particular value. It's not serving my family right now. And I think the best part about being an expat, or as my son is a third culture kid, is that you're able to pick values from the places that you live in, values that will serve your family, or that values that are actually good values. Because even in the British culture, despite the fact that I found them to be distant, I think there's certain British values that are really great,
mm,
right? So these are the values which I would want to adopt. And I think I think it's just about being able to recognize that there are gray areas. There's no such thing as good or bad, or it's very fixated. And I think that's something which sort of your perspectives around this evolve as you grow older. And then as you grow older, it becomes even more important for you to own your heritage because you want to pass on that pride to your children. And
mm.
you want your children to be proud of their heritage. So I think after a mom, that's become even more important to me.
Yeah, absolutely. If you were going to give a sort of top tip to someone who perhaps doesn't know anything about South Asian heritage, wants to learn more, wants to be better, wants not to be the person who infuriates you, what advice would you give them to learn more, or to get to educate themselves?
think just, having conversations like these, and just being more aware, because, unless you don't do the research, or if you don't talk to people, then you wouldn't really know much about them. So it's always nice to have conversations, interact with people, find out who are in your circle, who are not, and the people who are missing. And if they are people from the South Asian heritage, then find an opportunity to interact with them, have a coffee with them, find out about where they're from. So I think that's really important. And if you're really interested in South Asian heritage and from the partition point of view, so I would say, really look at it not just from the British perspective, but look at it from the South Asian perspective, and see what all, people went through during that time, because that's a very sensitive topic for a lot of South Asians. So just treading on that carefully and just being empathetic is important for us.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much. You can find out much more about Hira in the Diverse Executive Coach Directory website, but Hira just does so much. You can find articles of hers in Harvard Business Review. She's often in the broadsheets. You can find her on LinkedIn, just everywhere. She does so much and gives out so much great, helpful resources and information to help you become the most inclusive person that you can be. So I want to thank you so much, Hira, for your time today. I've learnt quite a bit myself, and I'm always learning. I'm really enjoying these conversations, and I appreciate your patience educating me and everyone else.
Oh, thank you so much, Jenny. You're so kind, and you've said such good words about me. But I think it's thanks to the opportunities that people like yourself create for us. So thank you for celebrating the South Asian Heritage Month. It means a lot to us. Thank you for having this conversation with me.
Oh, no problem. I've loved it. Thank you.